From 2017 to 2026, there's been nearly a 10-year build-up to the ending of Stranger Things. What started as a mysterious horror story about a young boy abducted by eerie creatures has slowly revealed what the series was always building towards in its finale. And while I personally enjoyed how Stranger Things ended, many viewers online have criticized it for feeling rushed and ultimately unsatisfying after all this time. In this video, I'm going to explain what changes should have been made to the final episode and how it could have been great with even the smallest tweaks imaginable. Now, I want to start off by saying that this season as a whole hasn't made it easy for the finale of Stranger Things to be the best it could have been, and it's why I'm really only going to try changing things from where we left off in everybody's favorite scene of the show in episode 7. One major theory I saw going around after this episode released was something having to do with Will not actually being himself in the last few episodes, and in reality being controlled by Henry himself. Now, you probably think that this was not really hinted at, but when I show you the evidence, you're gonna think just how bad the Duffer brothers fumbled by not going down this road. In the final scene of episode 7, when Will comes out to the group, he begins ranting about things he loves and what he does with the group. But what not many people caught is just how odd the things he says are and why they really tend to make no sense. The first thing he begins to reminisce about with the group is getting lost in the woods. He acts as if this is something they enjoy doing when it's literally the most traumatic thing he's ever had to go through in his entire life. After that, he describes how him and the gang like biking to Melvaults for malted milkshakes, which is weird because the place he's talking about has never sold milkshakes and is in fact the convenience store his mother worked at in earlier seasons. Now, where this gets even more into the theory of Henry actually being in control is that in the Stranger Things play, Henry Creel used to love going to the Melvaults diner to get milkshakes, which was later turned into a convenience store in the 80s. With all this, it would be safe to think that the Duffer brothers would have deliberately put these lines in to hint at the possibility of this theory, and further developing it into something within the finale. Well, unfortunately, they aren't that good at writing and decided to completely throw it away, making me believe that these were plot holes accidentally put by them. This could have been an insane twist for the finale and would have further reinforced the common conception of Vecna and Will being tied together heavily, with Will dying alongside Vecna in the final battle. Moving on to the main part of the finale, let's discuss the big battle against the Mind Flayer. Now, keep in mind this fight was nearly 10 years in the making and would make you believe that it would be quite difficult to kill and at least result in a few deaths out of the main cast. Well, to the character's luck, no one died except for Kali, and this is something I'm sure many people would see as cheap and unrealistic writing. Like, you're meaning to tell me a group of kids and young adults managed to defeat this Godzilla-sized monster with nothing but guns and a bit of fire? This Mind Flayer is supposed to be an otherworldly creature that has been hyped up so much throughout the entirety of the show. Hell, I think many would agree with me when proposing that the fight of Starcourt was more realistic than this nearly 2 seasons later. Things like Nancy outrunning this multi-legged massive creature without being that scared whatsoever makes you wonder whether you are still watching the eerie show Stranger Things used to be. It's hard to imagine how much scarier a simple Demogorgon from season 1 was compared to the final big bad of the season that spans a humongous size. I mean, this is literally an Avengers level threat, and even if you consider the fact that Eleven has powers, it was cheaply copped out by her just fighting Vecna on the inside anyways. I get that they were trying to find a way to make it so the group and Eleven could both equally kill Vecna and the Mind Flayer together, but it's like, come on, it took them less than 10 minutes to do so. I feel like an easy way to fix this would have been maybe not creating a Godzilla level threat for the kids to fight, or at least making the battle way longer than it was to actually show a sense of realism for these characters. It's also the fact that none of them appear to be as scared as one would be when facing a creature of this size. Sure, they're all panicking, but it really doesn't translate into how big of a threat it actually is. And let's not even get into how absent Demogorgons were in this episode, with literally not one being found in Dimension X, especially considering that Vecna could literally call them to come kill the gang within an instant. As well, another thing I feel the finale should have spent more time on is the origins of the Mind Flayer and understanding its actual true goal. I've spoken to many of my friends and all of them, including myself, are confused about one simple thing. Why the hell is the Mind Flayer like this? I refuse to believe he's just this pure embodiment of evil, and I feel like they really should have shown exactly what he wanted to do to the overworld and why. Things like these are what make villains so great, like for example Marvel's Thanos. Although what he's trying to do is terrible, you can kind of understand the logic behind it, and it just makes the villain's motive deeper rather than it just being simply evil. Also never explain how the scientist who was running away away with the briefcase, even got the stone infected with mind flayer particles, and it's just one of the many unanswered questions within the show that can truly leave you unsatisfied despite having a 2-hour runtime. Then probably one of my biggest complaints about this season and finale as a whole is the involvement of the military. It feels as if the military was written into this season to simply kill Eleven. Besides them not doing literally anything all season long, they're the sole reason why Eleven theoretically kills herself with the upside down. She doesn't die to the looming threat they face throughout this whole series. She doesn't die by sacrificing herself and taking down Henry with her. She dies quite literally to the hands of the military, who not once has been depicted as a well-written or good threat. It truly feels cheap, and I feel like there's a million other better ways she could have gone out, such as fighting Henry in her final moments, or even killing him with all her power, resulting in her collapsing and dying. And since we're talking about Eleven, don't even get me started on the up for interpretation ending. It's almost as if the writers of the show don't have enough balls to truly pull the trigger on one of their main characters, which is a problem we've seen throughout the entirety of the show, with literally no one of great significance actually dying. On one hand, if you choose to believe Eleven died, it raises all the points I just discussed of it being cheap and quite frankly undeserving of her character. And on the other, if she did survive and went on to live her life all alone, not only is it still sad and out of character for her to do so, it's extremely messed up towards Mike and Hopper, who really don't know whether or not she's alive. Sure, I understand if she needs to go off the grid for a little while for things to cool down, but hey, she could return and reunite with them soon after, or hell, flee to another country far away with them. Either way, you can see how problematic this way of ending her character is, and it's even more depressing when you consider the fact we will truly never know whether or not she's alive or if she will ever go back to Mike in the future. Another thing I really don't see talked about enough, and I think should have been changed, is the described futures of all these characters. When considering the fact that they literally are the first ever people to travel to another dimension and fight an alien creature, you'd think that somehow when they come out on the other side, they would find themselves to be praised for literally saving the world. Now, I don't quite know how this would even be written, since the military kind of limited their ability to publicly discuss this, but I truly wish these characters got recognized for all the stuff they went through with not only saving their loved ones, but the world itself. Instead of making them go on to live these simple everyday lives, I believe they all should have gone to do more crazy things with their unique experience in this other world. Things like Dustin going to work for top space agencies, or hell, Nancy becoming a military unit after showing off her keen liking of shooting guns, are more realistic than them going on to work normal jobs. Again, it's hard to exactly describe what more they would go on to do, but my main point of this problem remains. They should have been recognized publicly for this, and it would make a lot more sense for characters like Hopper, who somehow got their same old job back despite having been missing for 3 years, killing dozens of US military soldiers, and if I remember, getting fired from his old job. It's just really unrealistic, and I guess it stems from the unrealism created by making Vecna and the Mind Flayer such a big threat against the group of teenagers. Lastly, to conclude this really messy ending, instead of it panning to this now new group of kids playing D&D, taking on the role of our main cast all those years ago, I feel like that's where Elle should have reunited with Mike. And hell, I even felt like that's what was going to happen in those final moments. It just kind of felt cringe, and it was obvious what they were trying to do, but unfortunately didn't hit the way I think the Duffers thought it would. Overall, these are just some of the things I feel should have been fixed in the finale, and I leave it up to you guys in the comments to tell me what should have been changed and if you agree with me. If you want to dive even deeper into these topics with exclusive videos, guaranteed replies, and your name featured at the end of every upload, you can become a channel member for just $2.99. It helps out a ton and keeps this content going. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to keep the conversation going, hop into the Discord where we talk about all your favorite shows and media. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.